Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Girl Gone Crypto. Today I am super excited to have Discreet here on the show. So all of you privacy lovers out there, tune in for this one, which I think is most of you watching this. So I've got Brandon Koerner, the lead developer. So Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to be on. Anyway, yeah, so I'm the lead developer for the project. And if you want, I can actually introduce a little bit of the project too.
Yeah, that'd be
So
perfect.
basically, Discrete is, well, it started in 2018, and we decided after meeting up with another developer team to make our own cryptocurrency. And so for the past few years, we've been working on it, and around May, we started really going public with it, and here we are now. So the main points of the project are we're more anonymous and private than any existing cryptocurrency. We're not based on proof of work. We use a completely novel consensus algorithm that allows us to scale up to 100,000 transactions a second, and those transaction times are so low they're confirmed within 10 seconds. It is blazingly fast. So those are the main points of the project. We're also a programmable blockchain, so we do a lot of the same stuff as Ethereum while keeping the privacy intact. So very similar to things like Secret Network, except it actually works very well.
Right. So, first of all, I just have to say, I love the name. Discreet is like the perfect name for a privacy project in coin. So I'm excited to really dive into kind of the tech behind this, which it's great that you are the lead developer. We get to have these conversations and have you on the show because a lot of people watching this will know that I'm a big fan of privacy coins. I'm a big fan of Monero, and so I'd love to hear kind of the differences in terms of like the tech of how you guys are able to keep it more anonymous and private. I know, every privacy coin has its own kind of way that they do that, whether it's throwing in decoy addresses or, doing things like that. So if you could just break down for us exactly how it all works, that would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. So right now, the standard in privacy coins is Monero. Monero is the standard. If there's new tech, if there's something to be researched, Monero's probably behind it, or it's some other third party. So
Right.
for the most part, Monero is the standard of privacy. And because of that, whenever you have a technology that's better than what Monero has, it's exciting. So, which is why we pushed so hard to get this privacy coin out there, is because we really wanted to not just showcase the new tech, but also make it available to people as soon as possible. So the main way Monero works is there's kind of two functions. You have to kind of decouple privacy into two parts, hiding how much you're spending and
Right.
also hiding who's spending what. So anonymity is one term we'll use for that, and confidentiality is the other term, keeping it confidential. Your information, how much you're spending, how much you have, is not public. And then the other part, who's actually holding what, is also not public, yet still having all the functionality of a payment network. And this is accomplished using a lot of different technology. Mainly, we'll focus on anonymity because that's kind of the cool part. If the more anonymous you are, the more private you are, in my opinion.
Right.
Because confidentiality, that's a solved problem. We know exactly how to actually do that. But with anonymity, it's like we have all these new different texts. That's a hard word to say.
Right. I know it is, right? An
Oh man, yeah. But yeah. So staying anonymous, and especially as such an online world that we live in, is such a valuable thing. And to be able to do that, especially through crypto, is it's a very exciting and useful thing. And so that's what we provide. And we use a new technology called Triptych. And so this was actually developed by someone they wanted to work with, or they, back in 2018 and 2019, they used to work with the Monero research labs, but they no longer work with them. And they used to work with the community funded research as well. But now they're actually working for a different company now. And they're actually researching multi-sig stuff, which is kind of cool as well. And we're looking into that too. But they developed Triptych. And what Triptych does is it smashes the proof size down for signatures. So there's this big thing in privacy called signatures. And these things can get really big, because what you're doing is you're trying to hide who's signing what,
Right.
because that's the whole thing of anonymity. And so what we do is we found a way to incorporate this new technology that this person developed with Monero, or they didn't develop it with Monero, but they developed it and Monero is interested in it. So we actually implemented that. And the cool thing about that is we can achieve 6 times more privacy than what Monero has right now.
Wow.
So it's actually much higher than that. And if anyone wants to see the specifics for that, we have it on our FAQ on our website. but I don't want to get too technical because it is probably the most technical thing about our project is the privacy.
Can you tell that's what I'm like most excited about? I'm like, no, let's go deeper, but let's yeah, we can like do some higher level conversation so we don't lose everyone. That's, you know, and we can dive deeper into the tech again at the end. So in terms of, I kind of want to pivot and talk a little bit about the programmable side of things, because obviously, you know, that the Ethereum ecosystem is huge, and there's just been so many different adaptations and different things that people are building on top of that. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about your approach to that, and maybe what some of the use cases of how you see that being used are.
Okay, so the big thing about programmability is that I think it's a necessary component in a blockchain right now. I mean, if you can't like offer those services on a blockchain, then you're really not showcasing what blockchain can do in the first place. Mm-hmm. So basically what we do is we're exploring kind of two different methods right now. So one method that's actually really popular right now is off-chain computations with on-chain verification. Mm. And the way that works is basically you can actually, the number of nodes in the network, actually the amount of computational problems you can solve scales linearly with the size of the network. And that you can't do that with Ethereum right now because every node has to do the computations. Right. So, but every node still has to verify it. So the whole thing is to minimize the verification time while having an arbitrary kind of computational time. And so we're exploring that right now. We're also exploring the traditional method of just on-chain computation and verification. Every node performs it to verify it. And so, yeah, those are the two approaches right now. And there's another thing that's happening right now in programmability, which is instead of having your own language, instead just supporting like WebAssembly. So that's like a big thing that's happening right now is all these programmable blockchains are actually just switching to supporting WebAssembly in their executable in their virtual environment, in their runtime. And that's actually pretty powerful as well. But we're also, again, we notice the power of that, but we also know that having your own language is very helpful for blockchain because there's a lot of concepts that exist in blockchain that don't exist elsewhere. And to represent those in your programming language in a way that is easy to understand and digest for, you know, anybody from the high schooler to someone working in business with no programming experience to even like the most seasoned developers, it's you know, it's a gold mine, you know, and that's like what you want. So, and that's what we're exploring as well. So we have one of our team members, Henrik, is actually working on researching that. So yeah, we have a lot of different things going on, but programmability is like one of the very interesting things that we're exploring.
Yeah, and so in terms of, you know, we've talked a lot about blockchain technology so far, and I was noticing on your website that you guys talk about being built on a DAG. Can you kind of walk us through exactly like what that is and why that was a strategic choice for you guys?
Yeah, so the reason why we're a DAG as opposed to just a standard blockchain is that while DAGs and blockchains achieve the same thing, DAGs are actually a more general approach to blockchain. So, well, a blockchain is essentially just a list of data where the most recent block of data refers to the parent of that data. The DAG is structured in such a way that it's more close. It's closer to what. If we want to go back to 2008, it's closer to what Nakamoto wanted with the timestamp server, which is just a causal ordering, a total ordering of the transactions based on the time that they were minted. So you cannot have the double spend. And so DAGs actually are a little bit more general in that sense, in that you can refer to multiple parents, and they, by nature, do not have any cycles in them, which means you know, they work perfectly for what we needed for. And also they work perfectly for representing communication in a network, because communication is necessarily both asynchronous and also causal. You know, you can order every single message in a network, and so DAGs are perfect for that, and because of that they work really well for both consensus and the whole blockchain. So very exciting.
So let's dive a little deeper into your consensus mechanism and how exactly it works. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. I saw it's called Alef. Is that how it's pronounced? But maybe walk us through that a little bit.
Alef. So Alef or Alef,
Alef, okay.
Both pronunciations are fine. Yeah. So Alef is so that protocol was developed in 2018, and it was actually presented at the ACM conference in 2019. So it's been peer reviewed by a very, very old and established committee. So you know, it means business. It was very exciting when we first found out about it, which is why, you know, if we were going to develop a project, we would definitely be using that. And what it does is there's kind of two levels it operates on, and both of those they both achieve the two things. So the two levels it operates on is the level of communication and the level of protocol, and you have to separate those two when you're talking about consensus.
Mm-hmm.
So communication being the actual process of minting blocks and propagating the blocks and sending them around, as well as the consensus protocol, which exists on top of that, actually distributing the necessary information for consensus. So those achieve two things. They have an associated communication complexity, which is, how complex is it? How much time does it take, based on the number of nodes in the network to send all these messages, and a protocol complexity. And so what Alef does is it minimizes the communication complexity and the protocol complexity for DAGs. So it's an ideal case. And more than that, it actually offers an insight into a lot of other consensus mechanisms because it's based on well-established research. And so it's a very exciting protocol, and it showcases what the best is in terms of consensus in blockchain right now. So yeah.
So I just want to go like super, super high level for a moment. Who do you see using Discreet? Like what's kind of the user base? What kind of use cases? Kind of walk us through. If someone's interested, let's say, in privacy, online privacy coins, and they want to check you guys out, what does that really look like from a kind of consumer perspective?
So there is a lot of kind of use cases. So because of that, we capture a large section of the market in terms of like who we can actually offer services to.
Right.
But directly once we launch, we're offering services, within the traditional crypto sphere, within the community of privacy coins. So people who like Monero are, they're probably going to continue liking Monero, but they're going to be interested in us. And especially from what I've seen from our user base, it's mostly an academic and research crowd that are interested in us. So it's kind of like, so we have a few members of our community who are actually very interested in that stuff. So technologically, that's what drew them to the project. But in terms of what we're actually offering services to, it's going to be very similar to Ethereum. It's going to be very similar to what Bitcoin does now. We're going to be, a decentralized cryptocurrency that offers currency services, value transfer to a large number of people. But what the big advantage that separates us from them is we are anonymous. We are private.
Right.
And yeah. But the programmability is probably the more interesting thing for people.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you guys have your IDO. You've got the DIS token. Can you kind of walk us through that piece of things a little bit? Like, what are the tokenomics? What role does that play in your ecosystem? Kind of break that all down for us.
Yep. So we printed up 90 million diffs. So we have 90 million of those. And we're selling 60 million during the IDO. So right now we're doing actually a pre-sale for the IDO. And when the IDO happens, we're going to tie 25% of the funds raised during the IDO pre-sale to 25% of the fund to 25% of the tokens during the IDO. So we have 80 million tokens for the IDO. 60 million are sold during the pre-sale at most, and at most 20 million are allocated to our liquidity pool, and that'll be launched on PancakeSwap soon after the IDO ends. We have a burn mechanism that's set in place that may be used if we don't reach our soft cap, and that'll affect both the liquidity pool and also the amount of tokens in our supply, and that'll do a proportional burn. And so those tokens will stay alive until we launch our test net with consensus implemented. So we're going to have a couple different test nets. We're going to do a private beta test net with just a masternode system just to test the core protocols and privacy technology. And once we're satisfied with that, again, that's going to be probably end of year this year, we're going to launch a public testnet, which is going to be our Alef consensus protocol and everything else integrated. And when that's done, we're going to actually do just a token swap one-to-one from tokens on BSC to the token on our network. And so, yeah. And then after that, the remaining supply will actually be mined over time. So all the tokens burned plus an additional 180 million. So the total amount of tokens that can ever exist is 270 million, with a huge amount that's going to be mined over time, because that's going to help get more people holding our token and prevent people from centralizing the the token supply, which is the big thing that you want to prevent,
Right.
especially if you ever do proof of stake. You don't want centralized. I mean, we're not a proof of stake coin, but if you do proof of stake, you definitely don't want centralized supply. So yeah.
Amen to that. That's straight facts right there. So as promised, I do kind of want to circle back around to talking a little bit more about the tech behind what actually makes this private and anonymous. And so I know you had mentioned, when you're trying to kind of put in all of these addresses to mask which one is real one, it can get really big. So how is it that you guys are able to kind of keep that to like a minimum and just kind of keep that transaction speed fast? Can you kind of just walk us through a little bit, like how exactly does this work?
Yeah, exactly. So the big thing is, so I'll talk first about minimizing the size of the transaction. So that's kind of like the big thing. So right now what we do is we use Triptych, and what this is, it's called a sublinear ring signature mechanism. And to break that down for you, all that means is that it means that for if you have, like, let's say you have 64 people that you want to mask your address with, right? So that would mean that sublinear basically means that you're not going to have like C times 64 size transaction. You're going to have C times something smaller than that. So it's going to be much more proportional less. And believe it or not, it's logarithmic. So you can have 2 to the power of n number of people in your anonymity group, and that means you only have a transaction of size n. So obviously you need to keep track of the indices, but those are negligible when you're dealing with the size that we are, which is 64. We have an anonymity set of 64. So these ring signatures are basically the heart and soul of privacy. So again, some people use these things called ZK snarks, which are zero knowledge, succinct, non-interactive arguments of knowledge. I always have trouble remembering that one.
That was impressive.
But because they're more arbitrary and they're shorter, but the problem with ZK snarks is, to be efficient, they require trusted setup or a lot of different complex things. Versus what we use, which is we use a combination of a range proof using bulletproofs and Triptych for the anonymity. That actually is what powers us. And to be efficient, what we do is we use a technique that's pretty common in privacy called multi-exponentiation, which simplifies the calculation down to a simple multi-exponentiation problem. And we do that using a series of weighted aggregated proofs. And then what we do is we do batch verification. So we've optimized for that as well. And so theoretically, we can achieve tens of thousands of transactions a second and process those on a reasonably standard computer, especially once we get like all of the different implementations done in terms of like where we can run that on. People can verify on GPU, people can verify on an ASIC. And again, verification does not correlate to mining. It's just, faster. Right. So yeah.
Well, Brandon, it's been so much fun having you on the show. I always love when I can have the lead developer on, so we really get a chance to dive into some of these details. So just to kind of wrap up, give us a little glimpse. I know we've talked a little bit about what you guys are currently working on, what's coming next, but just tell us a little bit more about what the team's going to be currently excited about and what people can expect coming next from Discreet.
Yep. So in the near future, we just got the new website up. So right now we're working on optimizing on mobile because it's a little bit janky on mobile. We're getting more just more content out there on our social media, and we have this news thing on our website that we're publishing for as well. In terms of what our teams are working on right now, we're doing a lot of research for Discreet, which is our programming language. And what I'm working on and my team is working on is the core libraries for our cryptography. And that's actually very close to completion. And once that's done, nothing's stopping us. We'll mainnet will come so soon once that's done.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you again so much for taking the time to come on the show and really break all of this down for us. If someone is watching this and they want to check Discreet out and continue learning more about you guys, where is the next best place for them to go?
I would say start at the website. And if the website doesn't answer your questions, I will. Just join our Telegram. Join our... I think we just have our Telegram right now. We do have a Twitter as well. Join those, and there's tons of people always active, ready to answer questions in there. I'll be in there occasionally as well whenever I have free time. But I'll try, especially after this interview, I'll be spending a lot of time just answering questions, because honestly, I did it for 2 years before this. I worked in another crypto community, just answering questions. So it's my favorite part, is just talking with and engaging with our users. So yeah. And if you want to buy the token, we have ido.getdiscreet.org. The pre-sale goes on for another until August 5th. So yeah, or August 4th actually.
Perfect. Well, I will link to all of that below. So those of you watching that just want to be able to quickly click through from the description box will be able to do so. But Brandon, thank you again. It's been really a lot of fun to chat with you.
Absolutely. Thank you.